pleasure being on Africa Rise and the fact that you focus on African issues. And I would urge you to continue. And I hope that more and more people pay attention to the leaders that you bring to speak on Africa Rise, and that this will translate into some change for the better for our continent. Congratulations.
Okay. This is your numero uno, and my name is Charlie Boy, the area father. You're the very one of Africa, and the president of all frustrated Nigerians. Keep it real with Susan West. Yes, these are the channel where they like to watch when I won't get sand. You know?
Africa Rise with Susan West.
Hello, hello, hello. A very warm welcome to all our friends, our viewers, stakeholders, fans of Africa Rise with Susan West. It is, of course, another beautiful Sunday. And today I am feeling very strong. Last week, I was overwhelmed with so much, so much activity during the week that I didn't realize how tired I was until I couldn't even sing or even remember a Christmas song. And so I decided to take it quite easy this week so that I am, present and strong. And of course, as you join today's broadcast, it is very important. Today's discussion is so important. I cannot overemphasize the reason why we have to be here to, take part in this conversation today. So as you join this broadcast, remember to do the needful, which is create watch parties, invite your friends, and send in your questions and comments. Dr. Oussama Rifai is already waiting in the wings. And so in earnest, in no time, we will bring him on screen. But before we do that, remember, like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. Okay, and when you do subscribe to our YouTube channel, remember to press the bell button. So whenever we go live or put out any material, you will be the first to know. Before I bring Dr. Rifai, I'm going to quickly just play one of his videos on COVID-19.
As COVID has become difficult, I am taking this position to show you what are the things that we are doing today in the ICU to help a lot of our patients. If you look at my feet, you look at my knees, my elbows, and my position. We are now in a difficult time delivering oxygen to our patients. We are having truly hard time treating our patients. So what I showed you is one of the maneuvers that will help you move the oxygen in secretions. This position that I showed you at the beginning of this video helps you to lower part of your lungs. COVID will attack the lower parts of your lungs, seep out fluids that is as thick as glue, suffocation, literally, and respiratory failure. Many studies, without a shadow of a doubt, have shown that the best way that we, the ICU team, place patients in a position on their stomach. Even the better position is what I showed you at the beginning, on your hands and your knees. Then you drop your elbows like this and you put your head down. Cough. This is called proning. Proning, P-R-O-N-I-N-G. Proning position. That position on the internet, so you'll see even more illustrations and details, but that position is extremely effective in more that gunk and
thick secretions, glue-like secretions out of the bottom of the lungs, which is the bigger part of the lungs, out and protect your lungs from suffocating with COVID. The hand washing, don't pick your nose, doing the essential, and there are a lot of people who are talking about it, but what I'm talking to you about is from the heart of the intensive care unit. Yesterday was a sad day. We called it a D-Day. You hear about the D-Day in World War II? This is a D-Day for our ICU yesterday in our hospital from COVID. To protect you if you get a lung complaints from that COVID, just you can 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And if you can be on your hands and knees and put your hands down like this and put your head down so your back is going downwards. In yoga, they call it downward dog. You can drain your lungs. The way to liquefy those secretions also, you can drink ginger and curcumin that is sweetened with a little bit of natural honey. It will soften all those secretions and will come out. The reason we are seeing all those respiratory failures and the respirators in the ICU is because the lungs are being suffocated with that gunk and thick glue-like fluids and secretions and dead cells. So what we hope to do is we hope to move those and not trap them inside your lung and form a glue or like concrete that blocks your lungs, but move them, soften up with those secretions, with ginger and curcumin, and move them by laying down on your stomach or even on your knees and your elbows and put your head down. And if you have a family member that know how to keep themselves protected from being too close to you, let them do a little bit of fine tapping on your chest and mobilize all.
Yes, so welcome back. I just wanted to play that video because I first discovered Dr. Rifai at the very peak of when COVID-19 was, the entire world was confused. People didn't know about what the disease was about. People weren't sure. There was a lot of conflicting information going around. And in my research, I found Dr. Rifai. And one of the things he suggested in one of his videos I saw is what I went on to do, which later became public notice on many mainstream media, which is vitamin D. Dr. Rifai was one of the first few people who began to share with people how to, strengthen their immunity by making sure that their vitamin D intake was high. And so I have a lot of trust and respect for him. Dr. Rifai is also an African American, well, not dark-skinned African American. So I'm bringing him here because he's also, of course, he's African in a way. Yes. So without taking too much of your time, welcome, Diane Medway. I can see you. Let me bring Dr. Rifai on. Remember to create watch parties, share this broadcast, and invite your friends, and send in your questions and comments as usual. All right. Hello, Dr. Rifai.
Hello.
Welcome to Africa Rise with Susan West.
Thank you, Miss West. I am honored and I am delighted and I am elated that you have invited me to speak to my brethren in a different continent and all over the world to share with them what I have learned over the past almost a year and what my passion is about, which is to really reach out to individuals whom the knowledge and the medical knowledge is very conflicting and very distrusted. So,
absolutely.
Greeting to you.
Right. So really quickly, I'm going to start by, I will open this conversation by asking first, vaccine hesitancy. Vaccine hesitancy, of course, is not something that is new. It's something even the WHO have been battling with in the sense that a lot of people, because of their cultural or religious background, are not people who want to take a vaccine. I, for one, have never been very worried about taking a vaccine until lately about this, this COVID. Why? Because even you have a lot of conflicting information coming from the scientists or professionals in the medical field. And so, what are the myths, facts, and fiction about vaccines, really?
So in general, vaccines have been in our world for the past almost 50 to 60 years. And certainly the history have demonstrated strong evidence that they have been able to eradicate devastating diseases, polio, um, smallpox, cervical cancer in a way, and so forth. So vaccines have had clear, strong history. Now, what we are used and we have been programmed in the past to say a vaccine may take up to 10 years to develop and may take up to 10 years of research. And we can always start from 2020 and look back to 1950 and say, well, this vaccine had side effects and that vaccine did not have side effects. We cannot afford, we don't know from today looking at this particular vaccine. But what I wanted to bring to surface, this is not a minor disease. As of today, there is about 70 million cases that happen worldwide with 1.6 million deaths. This is not minor side effect. This is a serious disease that eventually will lead to death. So what is at stake is life or death. So when we value a vaccine, when we value a risk, we have to know the risk and the benefit. The risk of no vaccine is actually, for vulnerable people, is actually death. And it has happened. And we see it and I see it every day. And the benefit of the vaccine for the vulnerable people is actually life. And we have seen it with other diseases and other vaccinations. So I concur with everybody who has serious hesitancy about the vaccine. No question. It is a new vaccine. We don't have the luxury of 20 years of forward history. But we have to decide based on what we know today, based on how the vaccine is manufactured, and based on the risk, whether to take the vaccine or not. And so far, the majority, if not all, but the majority, except a small sliver of the doubters and the conspirators, are saying, no, don't take the vaccine because of different reasons. So there is no robot put in that vaccine. There is no chip put in that vaccine. That vaccine is not designed to change your DNA. That vaccine is not designed to change your personality or make you not be able to get pregnant or make men not to be able to have children. This vaccine is very well, because I'm seeing this. People are asking me, this is want to make me sterile, so I won't have children. I've seen that has to happen. I don't know if that happened in the African continent, but there will be a lot of people who may think that this is a way to do that to us. So far, that vaccine, when the studies were done, they were given to a lot of minorities, a lot of ethnic backgrounds, and a lot of other people. So it's really a widely tested vaccine, and it's not designed to do anything but to make your body make defense mechanisms against that virus. So I'm going to recommend that for my mother and father. I am going to recommend that for myself. If I did not have COVID myself, I actually had the disease, and I have been godly vaccinated, and I have the antibodies to prove that. So I don't know the answer for my case, but for my mother and father, without a shadow of a doubt, for my wife as well, and for my children.
Right. It's nice to hear you talk about how confident you are to let your family members take this vaccine. I will tell you something though. In the beginning, there were people who doubted that COVID even existed. I was not one of them, because I firsthand had all the symptoms of COVID in December of last year, Christmas period of last year, even before the government came out to say there was something called COVID. Me and my household, the entire household had to deal with this strange disease that we didn't understand, but for some reason there were certain measures that we took, and as a family, because we're into herbal drinking herbal stuff on a daily basis, I suppose that would have helped. So from the very onset, I wasn't one of the people who doubted there was something called COVID. What I, though, was conflicted with was the severity of what COVID really is. And then we got to the point where there were people who believed that COVID really existed, and there are people who still don't believe that it was a serious enough disease to warrant a vaccine or to shut down the world. But we have crossed to the part where there is a vaccine that is available. In my research, I found out that different companies, pharmaceutical companies, are using different techniques and methods to come up with this vaccine. Some of them are using inactivated virus, some are using virus vectors, and the Pfizer and BioNTech and I think Moderna are using the mRNA. And that is the thing that is freaking out the entire world, the mRNA. For some of us who have seen some videos with what some people will call conspiracy theories, they have talked about how these things will, alter our DNA. So do you want to educate us about the mRNA vaccine and why it is, why must it be mRNA vaccines that we administer as opposed to what people are more familiar with?
So this is a great question, and I get asked that question a lot of times. And here is, I'm going to take you back in history and take you about maybe 50 years on how viral vaccinations have been developed. And basically, the first two methodologies you have mentioned, the two ways of vaccines are made. It's either a dead virus or a weakened virus, or what we call live attenuated virus. And basically what happens is we take that virus and we grow it either in an egg or in bacteria, or we grow it in a environment that takes a lot of time to take that virus. Then we take that virus out, we either chop it into pieces so it's not effective anymore, or we put it in a solution to make it not active or very weak, but it still can stimulate your immune system. So this is either a dead virus or a live attenuated virus, and we take them and then we inject them for the body to recognize them and mount its own immunity against them. If I wanted to take you back and remind you that it takes a lot of time to grow that virus on those eggs and on our chicken embryos and on different environments. It takes a lot of time. So we are used to this. So when people say, oh, in 10 months they made it, so it must be they must cooked it in a pressure cooker, and it's so bad for us because it was cooked very bad. But we are used to the old-fashioned. Those days, they did not have computers. They did not have calculators. All what they had, they did things by hand, and it was so primitive. So that's why it took so long. Then the next generation of vaccinations are called the virus vectors, and basically these are genetic material that we get a part of that virus, and we get a DNA, and we take that DNA to make antibodies as well, and to make a signal, to make antibodies. Now, this has been used in the past, this latest technology called mRNA technology. And basically, mRNA is like a teacher that goes into the cell and tell the cell, let's make a part of the virus, not the virus, a part of the virus. And that virus is released into the bloodstream of the person. And then the body will see that as a foreign object and will mount immunity to it. Now, when we talk about nucleic acid or we talk about genetic material, the first thing comes to mind is, oh my God, our genes are going to be changed. Our genetic material is going to be changed. Are we going to grow up different traits? We're going to be looking different. Are we going to have genetic disorders? And I absolutely see the concern. absolutely see the concern. And I had concern myself until I started reading. That segment that is called mRNA does not go to where our big genetic material is, doesn't go where our height, our intelligence, our eyes, our hair, our skin, our cells. That segment does not go into the part of the cell where that factory is. So theoretically, and all the effort have been made for that part not to go to the cell and only allow the body to produce what we call the S protein or the spike protein, which is the most immunogenic part of the virus. So once that is produced, we see it, we make antibodies to it, and we paralyze the virus it to enter to us. So yes, I see the concern. That concern have been seen by the scientists. That concern has been purposefully addressed, avoided, and purposefully watched not to happen. Now, 20 years from today, I wish I have binoculars that would take me 20 years ahead of time so I can answer those questions. But think again, what is at risk? What is at risk is lives. We're not talking about an ingrown toenail virus against the ingrown toenail. We're not talking about a virus against lesions on the skin. We're talking about a virus that will protect your life and save lives. And it has saved lives in the big studies as well. So yes, there is a concern. It's a theoretical concern. All the studies and the methods have purposefully avoided that potential risk. 20 years from today, I don't know. But like I said, I would have taken it if I didn't have COVID. My mom and dad definitely, my wife definitely.
Wow. You did mention about the spike protein that, of course, the spike protein is what is causes the virus to be infectious, is it? I'm not so scientifical, but that's what I understand.
Yeah, so you hear the term the spike protein. Yes, the spike protein is actually what is like a hand stretched out of the virus like this. And the body, the human body and the human cells recognize this, and the body cells grab the hand of the virus and take it back in. And this is the way the virus can hide itself in the spike protein, and that extended hand with the human cell hand lock hands, they suck back themselves in, and that what really takes place, and that's how the virus get into the cell and infect the cells. So the spike protein is the cheating mechanism of the virus to get into the cells.
Right. I also have heard about people's concerns concerning the fact that when this mRNA vaccine is given to you and it gets into your body and it teaches your body to attack, this virus, this is the same concern. This is the same factor that they're worried about, that it would then, for women especially, are going to be sterilized, because then this same the same way it's going to attack the virus is the same way it's going to attack the woman's is it the embryo or the placenta or whatever it is. So these are things I really want you to talk about.
So I'm going to comment about your questions, and I don't get me wrong, the questions are very legitimate questions, because you are talking about people, regular people. We're not talking about every human on the face of this earth is a PhD in virology and vaccinology. You're talking about regular people, and each one will have their own concerns in their own world. So this vaccine, when it was studied, it was not studied for pregnant women. So we don't know the effect of the vaccine on pregnant women, and that is a definite situation. So I cannot comment because it hasn't been studied. Now, for women who are not pregnant, the spike protein structure and genetic code and appearance immunologically is totally different than the embryo and the placenta and the eggs and the uterus and all the female organs. So theoretically, there should be zero relationship between the vaccination and the antibodies against COVID and any female organ or potential future pregnancy. Again, we really don't know 20 years from today if the question comes, is this going to make me sterile if I don't have children now? The answer, it should not. Again, all that has been a legitimate concern by the scientists and the virologists and the PhDs and the industry. But there is a lot that we don't know. But theoretically, it should not.
Right. And it brings me to talking about the people who are most concerned about taking this vaccine are people of color, Black people. And one of the reasons is because, of course, on the African continent, even in recent memory, we've had stories published of, big pharmaceutical companies coming in and illegally trying out things on children and the populace in general. And of course, it never was something that really concerned the majority of Africans. But as it is today, there is not a country on the African continent that can produce a vaccine for its people. Therefore, Africa is greatly reliant on the vaccines that will come from abroad, i.e. the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and China, So how would you allay the fears of the people on the continent of Africa who don't have a choice, even though they are faced with this fear, great fear that there is some kind of plan to send us into extinction of some sort? How would you, as a medical person, use a common man's language to explain to people like that to not to worry about taking the vaccine when it does come, when it's made available for Africa?
It is, I can tell you that it is very naive of the non-Africans to look at Africa and say, well, what is it that is making you so paranoid? History, even in the past 500 years, have been very unfriendly to Africa, no matter what part and what corner and what age and what age group or gender. History has not been in favor or favorable to Africa. So that concern is actually very legitimate. Now, there is a saying in Arabic, and I'm of an Arabic background, that whoever treats you the way they treat themselves would not render injustice to you. So if I treat you, Susan West, the same way I would treat myself, my wife, my sister, my daughter, my mother, then I would be fair to you. So if you look at what is happening today, there is a race in the Western world to get the vaccine to their people. And it's the same vaccine has demonstrated, and when it was studied on every minority subgroups. There's about 40,000 participants. They were white, they were Black, they were Asians, they were Native Americans, which is an ethnicity that doesn't exist except in America. There is Asians, there is Europeans, and so forth. So it was tested for every minority subgroup, and there was no difference in response, and there was no difference in reaction to the vaccination. So I see the concern, but before you have an emotional antagonism, let's stop. Let's think about the evidence, think about what the rest of the world is doing to their people. And if I do to Susan West what I would do for my sister, believe me, I love my sister, then you are my sister, Susan West, and I will be doing what I would be doing to my family. Now, again, 20 years from today, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen to all of us. And we will look back and say, maybe we should not have done it. But for the time being, there should be no concern. There is no chip, there's no robot, there is no genetic manipulation, there is no ethnic cleansing, there is nothing. It is all about saving lives, because I can tell you from where I sit in the ICU, we see death every day. And now, where I am in the United States, we are seeing the second wave. Some places in the United States are seeing the third wave of COVID. Yesterday was the highest number of deaths in the United States related to COVID.
Great. You know, you've made some of my questions that I had written out. You already talked about them, especially about gene editing, which you've already said that the mRNA vaccine is not going to turn us to zombies, literally. Which is good news for me. Of course, this one broadcast is not the broadcast that is going to change the mindsets of the entire world, but at least we're getting somewhere. We're beginning to eliminate certain information that is not being helpful. So you also would understand that Africa is a continent that 80 to 90% of it is very, very humid and hot. In a situation where even in the United States, it is a challenge in the Western countries that have colder climates. It is a challenge in storage of this vaccine, in the process of transporting them from point A to B. First of all, there are 7 countries on the African continent that cannot even boast of electricity supply. So if you're going to administer a vaccine that has to be stored at sub-zero, at varied temperatures, depending on the company's the company that is producing it, sub-zero temperature, how is such a vaccine going to be effective in Africa? How is it even possible that we will get to the point where something ice? I'm not even sure, because when I read about it, even the refrigerator is not strong enough to keep the vaccine, potent or alive.
So today there are 2 types of vaccines that are approved and are being used and started to be used here in the United States. The first one is a vaccine made by Pfizer, and that vaccine has to be stored in a minus 70 degrees refrigerator. Even in the United States, we do not have those in conventional hospitals and conventional medical centers, and they have to be specially stored and so forth. The other one is made by Moderna, and with the one that is made by Moderna, the temperature does not have to be as harsh. Now, the 2 other ones that are now being made by AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson. We have not heard about their conditions on how to store that vaccine. So really, it's not clear to me, and they won't be online for about a month or 2 months or so. But in the United States, the logistics has been a major challenge, even in the United States, to have minus 70 degrees refrigerators. So it was really hard to deliver those vaccinations. But the Moderna vaccine is a lot easier to transport, and it's a lot easier to store. And effectively, they are almost the same in regards to the way it's made and the way it's an mRNA virus. So in Africa, I really am not a logistics specialist, and I am not a government agent or a government official, but there will be, in my opinion, a global movement to make sure that whatever is needed logistically will be available to deliver the vaccines to remote areas and to have it delivered to people so people will get vaccinated. How is that going to happen? I really don't know. What is going to take to make that happen? I really don't know. But it cannot be, people cannot be left and not cared for, knowing that this disease may come back and reinfect the whole world if that area is neglected. And the prime example of this, you can see the world movement when Ebola started to resurge in Sierra Leone and in Liberia. The whole world came together, tried to contain it. So same with COVID, the world will have a vested interest in making every effort to reach every corner and every small village in a remote area, in a mountain or in a jungle, to deliver the vaccine to vaccinate people. How is it going to happen? Like I said, I'm not a logistics specialist and I'm not a government official, but I can tell you, if I was sitting in the cockpit of the leadership in whatever, it's the World Health Organization, United Nations, the government building, the presidency committee, we will launch and dispatch every system we have to make sure we deliver vaccinations to those remote areas.
Right. And it brings me to talking about allergies. A few days ago here in London, here in the United Kingdom, they started administering the vaccines, Pfizer's vaccine. And then just almost immediately, they had come out to begin to warn that people with serious allergies should not take the vaccine because they're seeing adverse reactions that is not so good. Now, in Africa, here in the West, people who have an allergy are always in the know that they have an allergy. Because they have medical records, they've been told by a medical person, a doctor or their physician, that they have certain allergies, so they know. But on the African continent, I will say to you firsthand, there are loads of people who don't know that they are allergic to certain things. So in your experience and as a doctor, how would you advise people on the continent who might have allergies and don't know they have allergies, so that what are the ways they can begin to understand whether or not they should take this vaccine if and when they cross the bridge of not fearing the whether the vaccine is going to turn us into zombies or not. When they do choose to take it, how are these people, how are they going to be able to, what are they going to look out for to know whether they are going to be one of the people who have allergies who shouldn't go for the vaccine?
So allergy is a term that is as long as 100 kilometers in length. It could be a minor allergy. When you wash your hands with a certain soap, your hand will itch. Or when you touch you get stung with a bee, you almost get to the point of cardiac arrest. And that is also considered allergy. So the term allergy is very not fair and very wrong term to use, because I have allergy to cats. Am I going to take the vaccine? Most likely. I know I have serious allergy to cats, and I have a serious allergy to another medicine. Am I going to take the vaccine? Yes, I am, because we don't know if you are labeled as have allergy. Are you allergic to the constituents of that vaccine, or are you allergic to a cat or to a bird or to dogs or to a certain flower or to bees? We don't know. So if your allergy, though, is the type of allergy that is like a cardiac arrest, like bee sting anaphylaxis allergy, you may be the person that may have serious allergy to that vaccine. So if you have not in your lifetime, you're an adult and you live to be 40, 50 years old, and you didn't have allergy to a bee sting, allergy to a mosquito bite, allergy to when you're touching a cat or a dog and certain flowers and certain trees, the only allergy you have is just a little bit of runny nose in the spring, then I would encourage you not to label yourself as allergic to the vaccine, because what is at risk is lives. What is at risk is life or death, literally life or death. So yes, you may have allergy to a cat. Don't touch the cat and go get the vaccine. I have allergy to cats. I'm not touching a cat. I love cats. I don't have a cat. And I have not touched a cat in 20 years, but I'm getting the vaccine. So don't overjudge yourself and commit yourself to a disease called allergy, because it could be just allergy when you wash your hands with a certain soap, or when it's the spring, could be a certain flower or a certain plant that is blooming during the spring. So don't commit yourself to a disease that will take away from the ability to get or to be considered for a vaccine because you have allergy and you don't know if you have allergy. unless you have an allergy, like I said, when people have a cardiac arrest after a bee sting, unless you have that allergy, that's one thing. But otherwise, if you have not had anything in your lifetime, you assume the best rather than assume the worst. Don't assume that you have allergy to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You say it hasn't happened to me, so I must be good. Why? I mean, if you haven't had a chest pain and a heart attack, you assume that your heart is healthy. You don't assume, oh, my heart is so diseased. So the assumption has to be on the good side. You always have to be optimistic rather than pessimistic, and don't overcommit yourself to an illness that you may not have, and it could be just a simple minor illness. That concern in the vaccination has only been when somebody has severe life-threatening allergy to can lead to cardiac arrest. Then those are the ones we say, okay, so these are the ones we are not going to put them at risk, because if they have allergy to the vaccine, they may have a cardiac arrest. So it is something that you have to decide where the risk you want to take. But I would encourage you to assume, if you have had no problem, do not make yourself allergic to anything. Do not give yourself a disease. Do not give the name to give yourself a disease. Just trust God that everything's going to be okay, and He created you okay, and you should be just fine.
Absolutely. And on that note, just give me a moment for the sake of television, guys, everyone watching, people watching from the watch parties. In case you have sent in a comment or question, I cannot see it if you're sending in from the watch parties, but of course, after the broadcast, I have an opportunity to see it. But for the sake of television, we will take what is called a commercial break.
This is Femi Anikula Pukuti. You're watching Susan Rice on African West. Keep watching.
I urge all of you who know what it means to be African, all of you who may not know what it means to be African, all of you who are on the journey of awakening, all of you who need enlightenment and continued support, to tune in to Africa Right with Susan West. And to you, Susan, as a mother, I want to thank you for all the great work that you're doing to uplift us, to continue to engage us, to inform us, and also challenging us to engage in those conversations, difficult as they may be. You are taking us there. So Susan West, Africa Rights, keep up the great work.
Africa Rights with Susan West.
Yes, so welcome back. Thank you for staying. Yes, Dr. Rifai, I am just having a fantastic time listening to you speak, because these are the only ways we can educate ourselves and stop doing, for some reason, wake up in the future and realize that we were so unkind and unfair to ourselves because of all the stress we went through, thinking that, some of the things we've heard on social media is true. I'm not saying everything is a lie, but I said some, until someone comes to dispel the rest. So that brings me to asking the herd, what's it called? The herd immunity. Herd immunity. So of course, with that, we can be rest assured that somehow they will get this vaccine to Africa when the time is ready. Okay, when the time is right, when they have enough vaccines to go around. Now, what happens if a few people take this vaccine and the rest of the people refuse to take this vaccine?
So this is a very theoretical concern, and it's a legitimate concern. So when you have 60% of the people take the vaccine and 40% do not take the vaccine, that number, and it's not really a number that came out of a certain biblical passage or God's word. That is a scientific estimate. When 2/3 of the people are in a community or in a large commune are immune to a certain disease, then that disease goes to sleep, because it doesn't transmit from one person to another, from one person to another. Now, that concern that what would happen if less than those people take the vaccine, we don't know how long your immunity will be with the vaccine. So if 50% take the vaccine and the other 50 don't, and in a year's time, the immunity from the 50 who took the vaccine goes down to a 40% because over time you may lose immunity. Now we're back at square one. We are back at full pandemic wave number 62. So it's, yeah, we have to act as a human community. The barriers, the borders, the racial differences, the language differences, the religion differences, the financial differences has to be dropped so we can all survive this pandemic, or there would be a third of the population may disappear because of this pandemic. And if you look at the history in the mid 1500s, the Black Plague taken away 1/3 of Europe, took them away. So we have to act. We have to be responsible. We have to have the willingness to really look at ourselves, our family, and our community. That is now a human responsibility. That is a divine in front of God responsibility, because if you don't take the vaccine and you think that you're going to be fine and you become a carrier and you hand the virus to somebody who's vulnerable, and you knew that you were an asymptomatic carrier and your neighbor, God forbid, got sick. Now you have to answer to this. You cannot say, well, it happened. No, you have to answer to this because you knew it and you carried the virus with you. So I think that this is a human responsibility to say we may choose not to be vaccinated, but we have to look at the big picture as well. So I think that there will be a majority of the humans, they have the innate goodness in their heart, that they will do what's right for their family, their loved ones, their community, their neighborhood, their city, their country, their continent, and the whole world. And that's my belief, and that's my trust in the goodness of people.
Thank you. I'm just going to quickly, a lot of people are not sending in comments today, but I suppose they're really enjoying the conversation and we just let it be that way. But I'm just going to recognize Diane Medway Smith, Iju Lawson, Stella Hosful, yes, Agbo Nene, no problem. Agbo Nene thanking us for this initiative. I want to quickly talk about, you can understand, of course, the fears that people all around the world have, and especially Africans and on the continent. What would you say about your colleagues who have made videos warning against this vaccine?
So that is their opinion. See, in the Western world, opinions are very respected, but that is an opinion. That is not a fact. There is a solid fact that we have almost 2 million people have died today. That is numbers. That is body bags. That's graves. That's widows. That is orphans. That is parents lost their loved ones. So that is a fact. The other fact is you have years and years and years of solid research and solid good intention by scientists that are now been acquired by these pharmaceutical companies to make good medicine that saves lives. Think about the Viagra medicines. Think about the malaria medicines. Think about the antibiotics. Think about the AIDS medicines. So you have good science behind it. Now, when you have somebody who comes up with a video and say all this is not true, and there is one that circulates in the United States about that this vaccine has a chip in it that will make you, the government will be able to watch you where you go, when you come, blood pressure, temperature, and when you're pregnant and when you're not pregnant, because they want to know everything about you. And that is not science. That is just an opinion that has zero solid. So I always, when I do videos, I said, okay, so what I'm telling you is this. Verify that information, whether you go to Google it, whether you go to scientific journals, whether you ask your reputable professors, is this solid factual information, or it is my opinion that the sky is green, or the ocean is not, doesn't exist, or the earth is circular. There are people who have opinion today that they saying the earth is no longer circular, it's flat, or the sky is actually not blue. And that they're entitled to their opinion. But show me the solid research. So you see those people are saying, don't listen to those doctors. You have, maybe 1,000 professors that did a lot of research and they came with this science. But no, 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 no. Here is my opinion. All that is not true. You don't need to take the vaccine because it's in it. There is that chip, or it's going to go to your gonadal system and stop you from having children. There is no science behind it. So look at whatever statement anybody's entitled to say. Just do something called the fact check and see what is the actual facts behind that statement. If there is none, then it is up to you to believe somebody who's given you just an opinion and not actually facts.
Absolutely. And so that brings me to quickly, as we're concluding, what was the question I was going to ask? I was listening to you, and you made mention about something that has just right. I remember you as a doctor, you also believe in taking remedies that make me very, very excited to talk about you, because I am one who believes in taking natural remedies a lot. And in one of your, of course, the video that we played earlier today, you made mention about people taking ginger and curcumin. And a lot of people who don't understand, curcumin is the active ingredients you find in turmeric, right? So how would you advise people, habits, home therapies at home, remedies at home, they can inculcate into their daily living to help assuage this virus or the disease?
You have just opened the box of my passion, because from March of this year, which is almost 9 months ago, I have been vocal and very vocal about the value of improving your immunity, because this virus is a challenge. It's just like a race. It's just like a marathon. And if you're not fit to take that marathon, the virus will take you. If your genetic makeup is vulnerable, then you have to be in the best fit shape that you can be in. So the first thing I would tell people to take is to check their vitamin D. We as humanity, we are no longer living outdoors. We are living indoors. I live in Florida. I don't live outside. I live under a roof. So I might as well just live in Alaska or in a basement. So we are not, so sun has become so scarce, and sun is a blessing in life. So make sure adequate amount of vitamin D. So I talked about this in March last month. The data is so overwhelming about the value of vitamin D in keeping people out of the hospital, in making your disease very mild, and in you can be close to somebody who has COVID. But if you have adequate amount of vitamin D, you're not going to get infected. So it reduces the risk and reduce the risk of complication. That's very important. Number two, the strongest anti-inflammatory and immune stimulating natural roots are turmeric, which is active ingredient of curcumin, and actual ginger. They are very strong in promoting immunity and fighting a virus. So I would encourage, when you have this, chop a little bit of turmeric and a little bit of ginger, boil them, so make them like a tea, add a little bit of honey and drink them. It's a good expectorant. It helps you to cough up all the secretions that are retained, which is mainly the reason why people get sick with COVID, is they suffocate. The secretion suffocate them. So the video that you showed in a proning position is to move the secretions out. I want to liquefy those secretions and give them honey, turmeric, and ginger. Keep in mind that honey, ginger, and turmeric are very, very strong antiviruses. Third and most important thing, we found in the ICU that people who get in the ICU are people that are overweight. So if you have the challenge of being overweight, it's not easy to overcome that challenge. But what is now, it's literally a matter of life and death. Reduce your caloric intake. So if you take 10 bites for lunch, make them 9 bites today, 8 bites next week, 7 bites the following week. So caloric restriction is essential to boost your immunity. So your immune system will work a lot better when there is not a lot of sugar and a lot of calories, and will work better in fasting environment, which is strange, but the research on this. And everybody who, well, not everybody, but a lot of people who end up in the ICU are people who have overweight. So 3 things I would say: vitamin D, curcumin, ginger, and honey, and calorie restrictions are essential in boosting your immunity.
Wow. Thank you so much. I every time I run into someone who is into these things, I am super excited because this has been something that I have inculcated into my lifestyle from a very long time ago. And I began to see the benefits of it, especially when the COVID came, you know. So guys, you guys are listening. I will do, of course, a roundup of whatever that has been said here when we're done. So finally, the vaccines, the fate of Africans, your final words to Africans on the continent and in the diaspora concerning the vaccines and how to make sure that we keep healthy and well.
Few words on the final thing. I will take the vaccine, the same vaccine that I recommend for you. I will give it to my mom and dad. I will give it to my wife. I will give it to my children. With what I know today, it is a safe vaccine. It is effective vaccine because the risk is high. The risk is life or death. And we don't know what the future holds. We don't know how things are, but yes, history has not been friendly to Africa. But what we have seen in the past year on how the vaccine was developed, it was developed without any agenda or any underlying malice intentions. It was pure for human reducing and saving lives and reducing human suffering.
Right. Just before you go, Dr. Rifai, so that my viewers will understand that this is not just another white person trying to talk to them to relax and take the vaccine. I want you to talk about your African heritage so that they understand that another African is talking to them.
I am originally from Syria, and part of it is from Egypt as well. So it's not maybe not Central Africa or South Africa, but I have an African blood, an Arabic blood. About 5 months ago, I had sent a video talking to my African brothers and sisters about how they are at a more risk of this virus than any other ethnicity on the face of this earth. And it's mainly have to do with vitamin D, because Africans, when you take them out of Africa, you take them away from the sun, don't do well. And they become very vitamin D deficient. And we are clearly seeing this in the United States. In the United States, 40% of the people who die are of African heritage. On the other hand, the general population is about 12%. So 4 times the regular population. So if you cannot see this as a human, then you are really dissociated from your humanity. So I talk to my brethren in the dark continent, and I ask you to take care of yourself, and I ask Allah to guide you and protect Africa and protect humanity. And also, I want to tell all my heroes, frontline heroes, I salute you, I respect you, I love you, and I pray that Allah would protect you and protect humanity.
Amen. And on that note, I just want to say a very big thank you, Dr. Oussama Rifai. Thank you for honoring our invitation. What you have given to us here is invaluable, and we're very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. God bless.
All right, guys. I just want to say something. You know, last week when we had, we would have had a guest that didn't turn up, I was giving my remark. And one of the things I said, because of course I'm not an expert, like I said the last time, was that I could not understand why Africans were more vulnerable to dying to this disease in the Western world. And the story is not the same on the African continent, because people on the continent are doing very well. From what Dr. Rifai have just said, that is the answer to my perplexion, if I would put it that way, you know, because when you take Africans away from the continent that is blessed with sun, and you take them and you put them in areas that do not see a lot of sun, the vitamin D deficiency then begins to take a negative toll on us. So that would explain why in the Western world you have a lot of African heritage people, so, succumbing to this COVID-19 more than their white counterparts. Having said that, now we know that on our own, even coming from a medical doctor, we cannot overemphasize how important it is for us to inculcate in our daily routine, in our lifestyle, remedies that will then boost our immunities and guard us and away from this, keep this disease away. I have a habit of taking my morning tea in a combination. I will give that out because I have seen it work, and I am not an expert, and this is not a medical advice. This is me sharing what I do on a daily basis. And I have seen that ever since I have been in this country, even during the winter, I haven't suffered like a lot of other people, even when I have to deal with my family members who come down with a cold. I have not been, I haven't suffered very much because of these things that I do. What are the things I do? Every morning, the very first thing I do is to take turmeric. Turmeric. Some people can buy the curcumin because they have extracted the main active ingredients from the turmeric. The curcumin, you can buy it in the shops here. There are people who sell curcumin. I put turmeric, and then I put in black pepper. Black pepper helps to make the bioavailability of the curcumin. It increases it. And then these Indians who have always taken turmeric, I have learned from them. They always take turmeric with some kind of fat, because they take it as some kind of with some kind of milk, full fat milk, because the fat helps in the absorption of the curcumin in the body. What I do then, because I don't like to take a lot of full fat milk, is I take virgin coconut oil and put it into my turmeric and black pepper drink. And if I may add, if you like, if you don't mind the taste, a squeeze of lemon, fresh lemon juice into that drink. And also I would then put in some apple cider vinegar, the one with the mother. I tell you, it's done wonderful miracles in my body. So having a medical doctor come here also allude to the fact that these things do make a difference. And of course, remember to go buy your vitamin D, even if you live on the continent of Africa, because we have gotten to the point where a lot of us don't go out in the sun because we're always driving in our air-conditioned cars, staying in air-conditioned homes. So we're not so exposed to receiving vitamin D from the sun as we would have ordinarily, So please remember to inculcate all these habits into your daily routine and keep healthy. Dr. Rifai also mentioned that one of the people who are susceptible to giving into COVID-19 are people who are overweight. Yes, being overweight in some countries have been, described or prescribed as a disease. Yes, so you might not be a sickly person, but if you are overweight, it then exposes you to become someone who will not handle the disease well. So let's try to you know, even if you're not someone who likes to really exercise, cut down on the calories. And slowly but surely, like he said, every week you take a little more down, and your body gets accustomed to it. So let's try to inculcate the healthy living, healthy lifestyle, doing the right things, drinking a lot of water, vitamin C, vitamin D, and all the other things. And of course, you make up your mind. What will you do when this vaccine is finally available to Africans on the continent? Will you take this vaccine? From all the information that have been shared on today's broadcast, are you well informed enough? Have you made up your mind? Are your fears beginning to leave you? I will tell you for sure that slowly on my boxes, I am ticking up certain things, therefore my fears are reducing. That is not to say that I am advising anyone to do telling anyone to do to take the vaccine or not to take the vaccine. You make up your mind, make the decision from the information that we have brought to you on today's broadcast. I have had a wonderful time, and I thank you all for sticking with us, staying tuned. And for those of you who haven't liked or followed us on Facebook and Instagram, please do so. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. And when you do, press the bell button. So when we do go live or post videos, you will be the first to know. And of course, I love you so much. And as we go into the week, I'm going to be announcing we're planning a Christmas giveaway. Like they say, charity begins at home. I will be starting the very first giveaway, Christmas giveaway on Africa Rise with Susan West in my home country and in my hometown. You must keep it locked in here. All right. I love you and God bless you. Thank you for watching. See you next time.